13 views. Yeah, you're welcome to 13 views YouTube. That's where you're at now, and we
That's
are
some,
live.
that's some PewDiePie are
Yeah. No PewDiePie appeal here.
anyway. That's okay.
So I sent out a note to you guys in the little group I have here that you introduced me to of Dave, Barry, and you. Hey, there's Nasser. How's it going, guys? And I sent out a note. I said about this movie, Strange Powers,
Oh yeah,
Magnetic Fields. It's a documentary. It was pretty good. You'll like it if you ever get around to seeing it.
I'll
I
watch
know
it.
you like documentaries.
Yeah, I like it. I like a good documentary. Documentaries are, I mean, a good one. It's the magical thing.
This is a good one because it is about, creative people, where it comes from, and what has to go into the effort to succeed. These guys just didn't let, making nothing and scrounging bother them a bit. And
Oh
I
yeah,
just kept at it, and eventually had something you could call success. You know, but
yeah. I
also,
mean, I've read.
but their relationships are what's really interesting. They're it's kind of cool on that level.
I've read a bunch of books, a bunch of biographies of different famous, and it tends to be musicians because that's what people tend to
Mhm.
gravitate. And they seem to fall in a couple camps. And one of them is people that have just some kind of weird fluke overnight success, um, that just propels them to stardom, and then there's people just grind it out,
Oh
and
yeah,
I mean the best example I can think of a band is a local band called the Flaming Lips, which
yeah.
was pretty popular, but they were, I mean, they would play, and the lead singer, main guy, songwriter, who lives here in Oklahoma City, he's from Oklahoma City. They'd go on tour, and he'd play clubs, and then he'd come off tour and he'd go work at Long John Silver's, you know, until
Hmm.
until it came time to tour again. It was just, and then they kind of did the kind of thing they do now, which is kind of a weird. I don't know what you want to classify it as, but they happen to have a one of their songs hit and was on Beverly Hills 90210, and that kind of put them on the map. They just had a weird fluke,
Yeah, it
and
takes that little
they,
bit of extra connection and propulsion to get anywhere usually.
yeah, yeah,
But it's got to be there. It's got to be ready. You
well,
walk through that door when you're ready.
yeah. Another group is Radiohead. I like Radiohead, but man, every time I see them, I go, I want to hate them because they just I, something about them I just find very obnoxious. I don't know what it is, uh, but I like their music. But I mean, they were like, it's like, oh yeah, we were in school and we formed this band, and we got together and practiced a little bit, and then we got this gig, and then like a week later they got a record deal. It's like what, you know.
Oh, that can be another big factor. If the powers that be are looking for a certain something,
Yeah, I think
you
that's what
know,
it was.
and you seem to fit that bill, all of a sudden you're in.
Well, yeah, and I think comics are like that, and I think now we're seeing in comics this kind of thing where, and I think with bands it's kind of like this too, but I think in comics it's like not just your ability. Sometimes
I
ability is
was
not.
I was I was thinking you were all of a sudden into the world of stand up for some reason because I've been hearing so much Dave Chappelle noise, and it's like no, he means comics like you guys always talk about.
Like comic books,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
in comic books, I think now, there's like, well, they're looking for, something beyond just whatever is the apparent. You have to fit. And I mean, music has always been like that. I mean, I try to remember the band that I was watching a documentary about. It may have been Iron Maiden, and they were talking about they would interview people, and if they came in and there was like one guy that like he was wearing like an expensive looking leather jacket, and they're like, nope, you're not our guy.
Yep.
It's like
don't like your look. Don't like your look. It literally is like I hated him on sight. That sort of chemistry. Yeah.
Well, and at work, I've interviewed people, and I hate to say it, but sometimes that in interviews, it's like, well, you know, you know, well, I don't want
you
to
can kind of tell whether or not you'd want to work around somebody. Yeah.
well, and I mean, it's even as arbitrary, unfortunately, as like, it's like, well, this guy needs a job, and he kind of, so it's like, I talked to him, and my boss talked, or actually, he came to my, he called me when he got there, so I went and got him, and we had his temperature checks, all the things we got to do, and I talked to him, and I introduced him to some people in some different areas, and he seemed really enthralled with this one area, what this one guy was doing, and so then I took him somewhere else. I asked him questions, and literally it was about 3 questions, and it was just like I got the impression, not he's a real nice guy, but it's just like I don't think he'd work in our area because of how he answered these 3 questions, and it's like I don't know if he even realized. And by the way, I'm recommending him that these other group talk, because what became apparent to me is he didn't want to work in my area. He wanted to work doing something different. And I don't. And I told my boss, I said, I don't want somebody in my area. I mean, nothing against this guy or anybody else, but I don't want somebody in my area that wants to work in a different area.
Yeah.
And through the course of talking to him, he wasn't real interested in what I was really interested in him doing. But yet he was interested in this other thing. I was like, well, it seemed to me obvious that if I hired him, he would not be happy. He would always want to work in that other area.
Mm-hmm.
And there were about 3 questions, not in a row, but just spaced out, that I asked him. It was like, I told my boss, I said, yeah, I think he doesn't want to work with us. I mean, he might want to work at my company, just not in my departments. He didn't really fit, and he didn't really seem that interested in what we were doing specifically. And that's what I got to hire to. Is now I recommended the other people talk to him, and they may, I don't know. But I need a mold maker. Do you know how to make molds, Ellis?
Yeah, I've made a few, but they weren't any. They were just, you've seen my planes of the head little thing I did. I've done that, and I've, I understand 2-part silicone stuff, and I understand kickers and all that kind of stuff. I've done stuff, but I've not tried to pour something that was going to be used with metal and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean,
I've been interested in that stuff for a long time. I thought one time I wanted to do, just the word garage kit had a certain magic to me. The idea that I could make multiples of something and sell a mail order, that just seemed like a cool damn thing to me. The documentary, The Garage Kit That Ate My Wallet.
What? Is that a real movie?
Yeah, that's a real movie. It's about somebody that, because obviously all these things are like, even if they are multiples of like, 100, it's still just 100. You're not going to make a fortune off of this business. And so they have to be priced like that.
Yeah.
And so you can spend entirely too much money on garage kits.
You're talking about like a garage model kit, right? Like
yes,
some kind of mech or something.
Yeah. Or just anything somebody decided they're good enough to sculpt.
You
And
need
of
to.
course,
One
they're
of these,
the well.
you
Go
need to
ahead.
come to my day.
Well, go by your work someday.
Yeah, you can come by and I can give you a tour of the place. Don't get me wrong. I know you're retired. I don't want you. I don't. You're. No offense. You would not. I don't. If I hired you, I don't think you'd work for long enough.
Well, no, I wouldn't quit unless someone just really made me really angry or something, like I did at my
Don't.
motel job. I was really digging that motel job, and then they got rid of the one guy that he was a very ineffectual character, and of course he was unhappy in his ineffectualness. But I was in the what you could call the graveyard shift, and I was just doing my thing, whatever they told me to do.
Yeah,
Going
fix
into
this.
the dead of the evening, I did it. And boy, they brought in a new guy, and I think, and I told you some of this. That guy, I've rarely hated anybody as much as I've hated that guy because he was trying to do psyops kind of stuff that I haven't experienced to the level that he was trying to do them. He just really wanted me to know that he was such a boss that I was almost like just really beneath him, and he wanted it felt on every level.
Oh
And
yeah.
because he was black, I
Oh
felt
yeah.
like, well, hell, this is 90% race is why he's doing it. And so
Oh
that
yeah.
sort of sensitivity, once that develops,
Get that in your head. It's
you're
hard to.
you're just dumb for how much of the toxin you're really willing to eat
Oh yeah.
on it. So I quit real quick when he gave me a kind of a trap thing where it was one of my first paydays that I had to go to the bank for it to get it cashed, and he acted like I'd committed some unforgivable sin by being a couple of minutes late coming back from it, and we absolutely were always like, you know, we had plenty of mosey time around that place. There was nothing wrong with me coming in.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
You're not working. It's not like
Yeah,
y'all work
yeah.
for
There was absolutely nothing wrong. But when he laid that on me, I just blew up at him, and he said, "No, no. Now we need special counseling from. Don't even talk to me now. We need to bring the management in, and we need to see where we're at here with you." So that was it. I was and then
I
like I
think
say, everybody
I got
around this guy, they brought him in. I guess he seemed like quite a presence to all of them. He's about a 6'4", 3" black guy, big dude, just got out of the Navy, and I guess they were all kind of like in his thrall for a little bit. But when I gave away my mom's insulin later to some of the people I'd worked with, I checked on what he had gotten up to after I left because you want to check on some guy you hate in case
sure.
in case he's around doing something else you might encounter him at.
Yeah.
And he was already moved on. He just
Oh
barely he
really?
just barely touched down there. He just came in, ruffled everybody's feathers, and moved on to some other locale. And wasn't
Huh.
fired either. Wasn't fired. He just got
Oh yeah.
he's just one of those guys that
Oh yeah. So
he,
some people fell up or whatever.
yeah, they do. You do that a lot. Yeah, there are people that understand like, and your average employee suffers because of it because he thinks, hey, I got a job. Let's do this job right. And you got a guy that's hired as management that comes in and he says, this job means nothing. And if I get a better job tomorrow, I'll just tell him so long, Charlie.
Yep.
And
Stick.
but at the same time, they know they've got some sort of package together that they're going to be hired in perpetuity. They got it together. But anyway, yeah, like I said, I hated that guy, and And that's rough on a guy like me emotionally. I don't really like having that sort of negative stuff out pinging around in my delicate psyche. You know,
Yes, you're fragile
me and my
brain.
fragile.
Well, one of these days you're gonna come to my work and check it out, man. I could. We got a pretty good. We got a lot of cool stuff up there.
Have you got cool chemistry going on with people, huh?
Yeah, I
That's all
think
that
so.
matters. You know what I discovered about the I think I was a little bit enthralled to the idea of working in a motel and doing all the stuff that required of a guy because you are the ultimate handyman.
Oh yeah.
Was the
It,
Jim Thompson stuff? I thought I was going to see all kinds of weirdness, and I certainly did, but it was also a nasty kind of weirdness that I just didn't like too much. Like, the customer complaints, you'd have to go to the room, and typically it was to unplug a toilet. So that's no fun.
no. Yeah.
That would be your typical call. But one time it was because this guy in the audio visual system they had, he couldn't get his porno tape to work with him and his girlfriend. And he wanted me to sit
Oh,
around and try to
so
get his porno tape to
so
work. You know,
you go up there, what? And they're like in towels or something, and
yeah, it's that sort of nonsense. And one time I actually,
little.
Wim says howdy.
Oh hey.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, there was a lot of that stuff, and it is all based on like, oh man, this I just don't want to be part of this. It was like retail times 10. It's like people have arrived at the door, they paid the bill, and they think you're a big part of their party. And it's like, oh, you don't want to be part of their party.
Yeah, like no, thank you.
Yeah, we had one guy that was kind of long term. That he was married, and his big kick was to go down to this cowboy band, cowboy bar. It's a huge, huge establishment. I can't think of the name of it. I think it may just be called Cowboys or something.
Cowboys. I think it's Cowboys.
Yeah, and it's just a pickup joint, and that was his big deal. He's here long term,
No.
married man, and he's going to try to get picked up every night. And we had to, as part of what we did, we would shuttle these people to places for the. So I'd have to take him and listen to all his crap, and it was like, just a personality mix that just wasn't there for me. Well, of course, I don't mix with too many personalities. Well, there's that masterpiece. Yeah, I'm a lone wolf, and if someone tries to act like a party's going on, and I think it sounds like a nightmare, I can't disguise the fact too well that I think it's a nightmare.
You don't hide your
interior
emotion.
Very well. No, I don't. Need to get better at
on
that.
Your sleeve.
Yep.
Nah, why at this point?
Yeah, why at this point?
You're not working. I mean, if you were working.
Yeah, if I were going to become a public
offend?
speaker or something like that, yep.
Absolutely. Well, I got the preliminary contract for my comic book.
Excellent. You're going to X out?
I mean, it's. Do what?
Are you going to X out some things and send it back?
I had a bunch of questions that I haven't got answered yet.
Okay.
They talked about preliminary or not preliminary, additional rights in terms of like I had to kind of ask. Well, it was just the percentage of what the breakdown is on non-comic book revenue, and I was like, "What kind of non-comic book revenue is?" And they said,
Toys.
Well, it could be films, it could be overseas stuff, and so immediately I was like, "Okay, would you shop it around as a movie? Who do you do? How does that procedure work? Would you?" If it became, what other merchandise do you do besides games? Also, I wanted to know what countries do you, because that was one of the things is like, if it goes to another country, overseas distribution, I was like, okay, what countries do you go to besides America? I know they do some European stuff. I was like, if you'll do some Japanese stuff, I'll go over to Japan and promote the book. I'll force myself to.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
But I haven't got an answer to this. I mean, it's not a deal breaker, obviously, but you know. But I mean, you think about this stuff and you think, man, if they're willing to give me, X percentage of a movie, and it makes $1 million, if I hold it out for an extra 5%, it'll all be,
Oh yeah, those
But I mean,
percentiles make a huge difference when Ron Cobb was, I guess it was Star Wars. No, it was E.T. Uh, Spielberg, I think, may have actually asked for Ron Cobb to be part of his because he was a fan of Ron Cobb art, and Cobb didn't think anything about it. He thought he'd been paid, but his wife saw that in his contract he had agreed to a percentile of this and the such, and they ended up making just a ton of money. And I don't think they used any of Cobb's artwork in terms of like the concept for what ET was. They started earlier with him being a little more malevolent, and so his artwork reflected that idea.
well, I mean, don't get me wrong. No matter what percentage I got, it would be cool if it were made into a movie.
Oh yeah,
And I
it
have
would be
no,
cool.
I'm gonna be making all this money because it's gonna get a Netflix deal or whatever. As I told the guy, I said, really, my only concern is that it does well enough to justify a sequel. If it does that, I'll consider it a win. But on the flip side, you also think about that when you're staring at that, you go, golly, man, should I hold out for 10% more?
Yeah.
You know,
Well, the
and
whole thing would
but
have
also,
probably not been off the ground if it hadn't been for your treating it like it was going to happen. I mean, they probably would have gone on to a dozen different things if you hadn't been in the mix out there already doing the
oh,
work.
oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, uh, I posted the cover, and somebody was going, "Oh man, that girl! I got a real Farrah Fawcett vibe from her," and I'm
Hmm.
like, "Yeah, that's Farrah Fawcett was my model when I created the visual look for that
Hmm.
character." Now, I don't want to get into like, oh, who did what or whatever, but yeah, I mean, my thing, and that's my thing about asking, what they do, because if they're out there and they have an agent that pushes that stuff, then they're earning their percentage. Now, if it's just they sit back and if somebody stumbles across it, then it's like, well, then they're not earning that percentage that they got. What are they doing to earn that percentage?
Hmm.
And on additional material, that's kind of why I asked some of the questions I did. Now, did I make the guy mad and maybe that screwed up the deal? I don't think so. I asked before I asked any questions. I emailed the writer and said, "Hey, is it okay if I ask questions?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, ask whatever you want."
Yeah,
I said,
that
how
when
far
they
are the
start inserting the lawyers into stuff, it can drive you a little bit nutso because it's like, what do you mean here?
well,
You
the
read some
point.
little part that looks like it's just treating you like you didn't even do anything. It's like, what are you doing? What are you xing me out here for? You know, but they
Yeah,
want that. Well, they want
yeah.
that clear. Who gets what? That's got to be cleared up right now.
Well, really, I would like to know if do they have would they do other things with it? Do
Hmm.
they have somebody who's shopping around? Do they? You know, I mean, that'd be awesome, and they would totally. I'd be like, yeah, you're earning your money if that's what they have. But they've had a couple films made of some of their stuff, but nothing big. And you know, and again, I know that's the big thing is about, oh, you want to make comics, don't, all these comic pros are worried about Netflix deal. Well, I'm not worried about Netflix deal, but I want to make, if I want it to have as long of a life as
Yeah,
possible.
you want to continue to work on it.
Oh, absolutely. I enjoyed the book, and I want it to lead. Well, what I told a guy at work. I was talking to a guy at work about this, and I said, here's the thing. I am 10 or 15 years away from retirement,
Mm.
and I want to be in the position to where when it's time for me to retire, I can draw comics, you know, because I want to have enough stuff under my belt at that point that it's like, oh, okay, I'm working pretty steady on comics, but not like it's my main income but I just want to be able to do that when I retire, and so I'm kind of working. I'm hoping that this does well and kind of takes off, and out of this comes a sequel, and then comes another, or another something or another, and you know,
Xander's rants. I've got him pinned up here where he says, "Go get Babylon B's new book, The Guide to Wokeness." I worked on it. I love Babylon B. They're one of the most worthwhile things on the internet. Anything that where you can get a laugh. And
a damning praise.
oh yeah, oh yeah, that is true.
But yeah,
But yeah, Babylon B, Guide to Wokeness. I do need to get that. And he
yes.
worked on it. We've got a guy that does gags, but I imagine he's an animator. And they do a lot of.
Oh yeah.
I'm really surprised.
It's like the site, right? The Babylon Bee puts some pretty funny stuff out.
Oh yeah.
What makes it is, unlike some of the other like gag or parody sites or whatever, theirs strike a little close to home sometimes.
Oh yeah. Well, they're prescient. They're constantly saying stuff that's funny because it's so stupid and exaggerated. And then they're only 1 month ahead of it being the actual thing that's going to come out and be a news story. It's like it's kind of sad, really, but it's happened several times.
Required to wear 2 masks, and then it's like,
yeah.
That would never happen. Oh crap,
Yeah, it's happened. They had somebody that did a good Norm style weekend update kind of joke where it talks about the chaos caused by Dave Chappelle's special and all these people, all the trans people that walked out and all that. And it said the CEO was just devastated by it. And he said, and he said, he's learned one thing from it. It's just not to hire trans people. That's the big payoff. It's like, if he's learned one thing from it, it's not to ever hire trans people again. which would be a perfect, norm joke.
Well, I mean, you do kind of wonder if you're. I play D&D, and D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, the Wizard of the Coast has kind of gone through its own thing like that, and there was recently a woman who was complaining about something, and it was like, and I don't remember all the details, but I was reading about it, and it was like she was real angry, and she caused all this, and she went on Twitter, of course, because Twitter's what they try and weaponize. She went on Twitter and was complaining about all this, and then how she'd been unfairly fired, months before or whatever. And I'm thinking, golly, I'd hate to work with you.
Oh yeah. You get a very quick sense of these people that are like, man, keep me away from you. Yeah, anybody that all of a sudden starts bragging about how many people they've sued or anything like that, it's like, oh man, see you later. I don't want to even be around you.
Yeah. Well, like what company in the right mind, most of them aren't nowadays, but what company in the right mind would say, you know, this person that all they do is get online and vent all these grievances about various things and different employers and stuff and different companies? That's the person I want in my marketing department.
Yeah,
Or that's the
yeah.
person, it's like,
Well,
what do I
I
want to
guess
be?
everybody does kind of like a forensic check on anybody their online presence anymore before they hire them. I would think they would.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I mean, you'd be stupid not to. Yeah, I mean, everyone that I've hired, just, and I've never found anything crazy on anybody. Well, hey, you know what? I'll tell you this.
You haven't looked at my Twitter account, have you, in a long time? No, I'm no longer on Twitter. I'm so crazy I got permanently banned. Hey, you're there.
Oh no, shocking.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll tell you this. I wasn't the boss, but when I was under the old boss, there was a girl that came into that we were looking for somebody. There was a girl that came in and applied, and she she complained because my boss said he didn't want a second interview with her. So she complained to HR and said, "Well, I have all the qualifications you're looking for. Why would he not? I want to, I want to be I want a second interview." And it implied that maybe, well, she kind of implied it was a racist thing. And
Mm.
so they said, "Well, come in." And so the boss said, "Well, if she comes in, I'll give her like a little test on Illustrator because that's what we use on Illustrator." And so in the meantime, I kind of found out about all this, and so I looked her up on Facebook, and she was very clear on Facebook. She was like, "Man, I'm just trying to make enough money to get out of this state. I hate this state." And she said something about, "I'll take any job. I don't care. I'll need a job for about 3 months, then I can leave." You know,
Just
and
just
I
get her
told my
nuts so she
boss,
can get out. Yep. Hey, hey, Scott, you froze. Uh-oh. I think we lost Scott. I wonder how long it'll be before he notices. I need to share. I'll announce this. I'm going to share the link to something called. Let's see if I can find it here. It's a pretty groovy site if you want to see a whole lot of scanned comic books. Man, they have got quite an inventory of old stuff. Probably not news to anybody. That Internet Archive. Here it is. It's called, readcomicsfree.com. I recommend that highly. Readcomicsfree.com. Rest in peace, Scott. Yep. I was doing a groovy bulldog. That's the thing about having Scott on. He does all the talking. So yeah, readcomicsfree.com. There he is. He's back. We'll see what he wants. Hey, you're back. See, it says rest in peace, Scott. You know, you're kind of froze up now. Are you okay? Or you got battery issues?
hang on just a second, Ellis. Got 1% of battery.
Uh-oh. You use that you use that iPhone. You know, mine is still just barely used at this point. I've learned enough about it that I feel real confident with it, so that I do know how to use it. But it's like,
Yeah.
I don't use it. You know, I do need to add a bunch of apps and start doing that sort of stuff. So, do you remember what your topic was before you self-immolated? Immolated. Yeah, burned yourself.
Anyway, my boss agreed to have this lady come in, and I showed him the thing. I said, "Look at this. This is lady on Facebook that I said, she's not wanting, we're looking for somebody full time or for, a little while at least. And I'm like, dude, she's just, and so he brought her in and kind of find she didn't know anything about Illustrator. And there wasn't anything on her profile to indicate that she knew anything about Illustrator or graphic design or art or anything like that. And she kind of fumbled her way through, but it was very obvious. In fact, she ended up leaving early. She was like, "Well, I guess I'm not right for this job," and left. And I was like, "Yeah." Anyway,
Yeah,
so
I
but she,
mean, some people, you'd have all sorts of anxiety about wanting to be useful to it and all that. Other people, like I say, just aren't. They're like, I've got this package together. You should hire me because that's what's owed to me in life. And like you say, that person, you should be on the lookout for that person and try not to hire that
yep,
person.
well, and like I said, she was just like from reading her online profile on Facebook. She was obviously she lived in Oklahoma. She was unhappy. She wanted to leave, and and she was just looking to make a little money so she could have money to move.
Yeah.
And that's not we don't want somebody like that. I mean, we need somebody who's gonna you don't want to bring somebody in and train them and then
Yeah.
they leave and
I saw
and
something, the big
you know
horror story right now that's going on with employer wage slavery going on right now is this vaccination uh, thing that's going on, and especially in the military. I saw a thing, and I hope it's just one of these things that's clickbait, just telling you horrible stuff that's not actually true. But they're acting like if
yeah
they do separate people that refuse to get vaccinated in the military, that they're going to
yeah.
want them to pay back for their training. And it's like,
Oh, I don't think that'll ever
I would
happen.
hope it doesn't happen.
Well, first off, how would you enforce? I mean, obviously,
Well,
government's not
how
going to
would you
go.
do any of this nonsense that they seem intent on doing? Everyone yells about it constantly, but I guess we aren't the party of the trial lawyers, and so there's just not enough heat being brought to get this stuff under control in terms of like making people feel like. I mean, we've got the threat of 2022 coming up, but I don't think they're really worried about that because if they manage to keep the vaccine hysteria heightened enough and the flu hysteria heightened enough, they'll have mail-in balloting again. And at that point, they don't care. They know they can win any kind of election with mail-in balloting. So, it's so they're playing a game of like, okay, we would pay a price if there was such a thing as voting anymore. But
Yeah.
there may be a very good chance that there is no such thing as voting anymore. And so they're playing that angle in terms of like what their attitude is toward their beloved constituency. And they don't love us. They don't care about
Oh,
vaccinations
yeah.
for anything other than separating the people willing to be on their side and the people unwilling to be on their side. That's all that vaccination is for at this point.
I, Democrats have got themselves in, and I don't want to turn this into a politics podcast, but I think the Democrats have got themselves in kind of a pickle because I don't know their constituency is so fractured, and it's like if you it's just like this cancel culture stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If your goal is to be on a perpetual witch hunt, well, eventually you don't have anybody that you haven't hunted yet. You know, I
Yeah,
mean,
you would think that it would occur to people to.
well, it becomes this ever tightening loop of purity test. You know, I mean, you know, it's like, oh, Dave Chappelle is not woke enough for us. You know, it's like, okay, well, you know, and theoretically, with every so I have to think that there's people out there who are fans of Dave Chappelle, and they're like, well, wait a minute, I support all this, but I also support Dave Chappelle,
Yeah.
and so it seems to me like when that's your the way that you operate, you peel off support slowly, like an onion peel, and so it's just a question of where they peel off enough support. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, but here's the go to the gas station and pay $3 for gas. Go to the store and pay. You know, I mean, people feel stuff in their pocketbook.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and like I say,
you can't tell
if it means
people
anything that there's ever such a thing as voting again, it'll make a difference. But if there's no such thing as voting, we really have no recourse other than something that they're really ready to play a game at, which is the stuff with lawyers. They're really good at that. They're ready to meet you with a lawyer.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, I mean, you know, vote. I don't know. I mean, I just feel like that. And don't get me wrong, I feel like there was cheating going on in the last election. But I don't think they. I think they can cheat enough to completely swing an election. It just stacks the odds against the Republican. I feel like.
Yeah,
You
they
know,
didn't.
but
They didn't stack the odds. They blew him.
well,
They blew him out.
it blew them out the door. Well, yeah, but again, I mean, I don't know. You know, it just depends. Who knows, man?
And good old Zuckerberg, he made sure it happened. I mean, his was the money and the drive that made sure that mail-in balloting was the little monster that it was. And that's the thing. It's like
Yeah,
if they go ahead.
well, I don't know if they can summons that up again though.
Oh, I think
I
I
don't
think
think
that's
that.
the whole reason that the flu. It's not the flu. God, I can't believe it. As much as I hate people calling it the flu, I can't believe I called it the flu. It's a cold. It's a cold virus, and
Oh yeah,
it's never going away. It's here. There's absolutely nothing what you're seeing where people catch it with their vaccine and are the most seemingly most likely to catch it anymore because they've got the numbers that cause them to be the people most likely to catch it because there are more of them now.
yep.
There's no cure, never was a cure. There's no vaccine for it. So you really have to say, okay, since it's just a thing that is there, like water and rain, now you go back to normal. Well, they're not going to go back to normal because, like I say, that if that mail-in voting is still an option come 2022, then the final things that they need to get put together for complete control will have landed in their lap.
When's the Virginia gubernatorial?
Well, I really want McAuliffe to lose that,
You
but
know?
again, I think they've got it all figured out on cheating. There's just no way that. And I said the same thing about Larry Elder. There was just no way he was going to beat Newsom either. They've got that.
Well,
They've got that game too well figured out there in California.
Oh yeah, well, hey, California. California gets what they deserve, in my opinion. Sorry, I know you like California, but
well, I just like it to live there. I like its weather, and I like its history, I guess you could say. Back when they They had Ronald Reagan was the most appropriate governor you could have. It's like, yeah, basically you could say pre Willie Brown is the California of anybody's dream. It was the blowing up, expanding American dream, California.
Oh, the West. I mean,
Yeah.
Sure. That's
now it's the California everybody's leaving.
Every yeah.
Which
that's the other. I see videos of those towns. It's like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
So much stuff is just out of control and big. I mean, I'm glad I don't live in a big city.
Yeah, there's this one guy, Pasobic, that's always he just has these one-liners that he does. It's one of them he repeats all the time is "Get out of the cities," and then he'll have a link to some sort of horrific thing that's happened. Yeah, Wim says there was ballot tampering caught on video in 2 states, as well as the Dominion machines have shown major inaccuracies. Oh yeah, it's just nonsense. The idea that
and I don't disagree. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying, oh, you're crazy. It was pure as the driven snow. I'm just saying, I don't know if they can pull that off. I feel like people are going to be watching for that kind of crap now. Hopefully,
Well, I used to work retail at you remember C.R. Anthony's clothing store?
Yep.
I worked there, and we used to have. I had these old hands that told me about the shoplifters that came in, and they said they are happiest when you're right on top of them. I don't know why that would be, but they felt like they pulled off. I guess when you're right on top of them, they really can work the angles on it because they know where you are. They can shield what they need to shield and pull off the idea of where they're stuffing it under their armpits or whatever because they know where you are. Whereas if you're lurking around and they don't know you've got eyes on them, then you can spot them. Of course, that was back in the day where people got stopped and maybe even manhandled if they tried to get out of your store with stuff. Nowadays, it's like they walk in and just walk. It's funny, Russell got an early preview of that kind of treatment. He was running a kind of a convenience store thing up in, I guess it was Maryland. He followed a girlfriend there, and
oh yeah.
And then that was one of the things he knew how to do was to work retail at these convenience stores. And one evening, he had a guy come in and just start taking what he wanted and leave. And it's like you can get upset with him or whatever, but as a general rule, policy is leave them alone. Don't touch them. Don't do anything. And when that's your policy. And that's the thing about these foreign, what kind of, they're generally from the Middle East, and they run stores, and I forget what kind of particular. I think they're basically Christians. I forget their names. But anyway, they'll always confront you. There's going to be a fight if you come in and you try to steal from those people.
Yeah, well,
and that's the way it should be. I mean, you ought to say, hey, you're not going anywhere with that stuff. You didn't pay for it.
Yeah, I saw a thing the other day that said that Walgreens was closing like 9 stores in San Francisco because
they can't afford the
San Francisco, they decided that. Yeah, I think it's like 1,000. Like if they won't even do anything to you if you're selling less than like $600 or $1,000.
Yeah.
And so they'll bring gang people into like Walgreens. They'll steal cosmetics and stuff. And it's like, do people not realize there's people figure out this stuff?
Oh, they're instantly on it. Yeah.
Without, and people will go, okay, well, You know, I mean, and I've seen where they're talking about, they'll talk to people working the stores and say, yeah, people come in and they'll calculate, this is how much stuff I have, and so I'm just going to take it. You know, just people on video. Don't care if you video them. Don't care if you see them.
Mhm.
Don't, you know, they know they're not going to get any trouble, so take it. Well, anyway, I can't. I mean, I don't condone it, but I don't blame the people, because it's like, well, you're telling them to take it. You know,
Yeah, it's almost
you're
like
telling them you're not going to get in trouble if you
it's
take.
it's almost like you've been informed of an extra bit of welfare or something, an extra privilege that you now have.
Exactly. Why?
Might as well exploit it.
Yeah. So why, you know, you can't. In some ways, you can't be mad at the people doing it. It's the people that made the rules. You know, and that's the world we live in, run by idiots, or some places are, at least, in my opinion. Sorry, but anyway, what'd you do today, Ellis?
Well, I got a couple of things that needed doing. I got some mopping done. I got I tightened up a packing nut on something that's been leaking for entirely too long. And of course, it worked and made me feel like an idiot for not doing it earlier.
How did I let this go so
Yeah,
long?
exactly. Doing a whole bunch of leaking, and yeah, that's the simple thing. If you ever have a leak at a faucet or something like that, just tighten the packing nut up. Don't call a plumber, or don't have a fear of what it would cost you to call a plumber. And thank God for YouTube being out there to tell you how stupid you're being. You know,
Oh yeah,
check on
Ellis,
you
why have you
check
not done the
on
story?
YouTube early. Yeah.
Yeah, I had. Did I tell you about my car issues? I don't know if I told you about my
You
car
told me a
issues.
couple of them, I think. Now I can't remember them, but go ahead.
Well, I bought tires, and they stripped the lug nuts,
Oh yeah, yeah.
or they cross threaded the. So I took that in on Tuesday, and I go to this car. It's this little hole in the wall car place, and I go in. I ask the guy, I go, "Are you guys? Do you think you'll be done with this today?" He goes, "Yeah, probably." And I'm like, "Crap!" And man, they had it done by 3:30. Michelle came and got me, and I went and got. Or no. I'm sorry. By 3 o'clock, they called me and they were done, and they said they found two broken. They checked all the tires, and the tire place had broken two wheel studs
Geez,
on my brand new tires.
what
Yeah, I know. I didn't know they were gorillas.
what do they do about
Got them
that? I mean, what do they do about a broken wheel stud? I mean, do they give you a new wheel?
You can pop it out and put a new one in, but
Okay.
you have to take the wheel off. It's kind of an ordeal to do.
Yeah.
I mean, at the house it would be, for them it's not that big a deal. But
Oh
you got to
yeah.
take,
Got the equipment.
I was, yeah, you got to have the equipment. But when I saw the place, I was like, oh gosh. But I mean, they did it, and it's everything. The car even drives a little bit better, I guess. It seems everything seems to be a little bit tighter on the.
Yeah, everything's got a better grip now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I've been driving my dad's truck a little bit, not a lot. My nephew needs it back because his fiance bought a car, not a truck, a car, and they went to put the title on it to get the tag, and it didn't have a clean title. They bought it at a car lot, and the title was.
I bought something that was
like, what?
with a nasty title once, and that's a hassle.
Well, yeah, and so so they can't get a tag, so she's scared to drive it.
Yeah.
I don't think I blame her. And so it's like, well,
I bought a little.
I'm gonna have to give up.
I bought a little CRX from a lady down the stairs from me at an apartment complex, And that
Yeah.
thing was just had just some sort of weird, probably a stolen history. I don't know. It you just had no paper that you could lay your hands on about it, and I instantly wanted to just get rid of it. And I was stuck with the guy being the guy. I don't even remember how I did it. I don't remember how I got rid of it. I probably had to go and be just as illegitimate as her. I didn't make a victim out of anybody. I just passed it on to somebody that knew that it had problems. I think.
They
You know
were
what?
willing to.
That's weird. That is such a complete blank I'm having of how I got out from under that thing. Oh, you know what? Oh man, I it's even worse than that. It was pretty fairly cheap. I think I took a loss on it and donated it. They have these ads that are constantly running out in California
Oh yeah,
of donating your car, and I think I donated it.
to the Sierra Club.
It probably ended up being something. The Sierra Club used the funds. No, no, it was something else.
The Ford Station.
Yeah, yeah, no, something I no doubt vehemently disagree with that I gave him that money.
California, you wouldn't have any choice.
Yeah, yeah, I think I looked
Uh,
into having it parted out. I think even if you wanted to part out something like that and sell it to a junkyard, you have to have papers on it. You can't just say, okay, here's a junky car and it's all
yeah,
yours.
take this
Just give me
junky
just give
car.
me a few bucks for it.
Somebody filed off. I don't know how I got this car and someone stole my VIN number.
Yeah, yeah,
I need to get rid of it.
yeah, that sort of thing.
There are no serial numbers anywhere on it.
No,
Can you
I
take off my hands?
I think I
So you had a CRX.
yeah,
My father had a I think it was an '89 CRX that my brother ended up buying from him, and he drove forever. And then David Nelson had a CRX, and David Nelson bought the CRX from somebody, I don't know who, and he drove it. And at one point, he sold, and I remember it had real nice wheels on it. The previous owner put real nice aftermarket wheels, and so Dave sold the CRX. And like 6 months later, he gets a call from somebody at the DMV or something, and there's like, "Well, we have your CRX," and he's like, "What are you talking about?" And they go, "Well, we have this CRX here. We impounded it, and the title's in your name." And he goes, "No, I sold it months ago." And they go, "Well, whatever happened, the previous owner never transferred it over." And they're like, "Well, do you want to come get it?" And he's like, "No." So, but he potentially could have had it twice, I guess, if he wanted it, which he didn't,
yeah,
obviously.
you'll find that sometimes you
You
will
know,
sell something to somebody that has absolutely no intention of using anything but the little bit of legitimacy that you have brought to the vehicle, and they are never going to interact with the stuff that transfers it to them because they may be illegal or whatever. So I don't know who he sold it to, but yeah, that's what they
well,
were doing. They were just like, this
you know,
this is
you
this is
said
my
that.
ride for a while. Yeah.
I think he did sell it to someone that maybe was not a Native American. I
Hmm.
mean, a born American. I mean, this is a long time ago, but it seems like now that you say that, I think I remember that he sold it to a guy that was not
Yeah,
potentially not here legally that
he was
way,
just taking a ride
and
on that having been at one time a legit vehicle that went through all the
yeah, that
paperwork.
he could. I, uh, I think Dave told me the guy wanted it because it had those nice wheels on it,
Hmm.
and he may have just wanted it for the wheels. You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
I don't. Dave got it, so I don't know if it still had those aftermarket wheels, which they weren't that nice, but that one time they were nice wheels. They just got over the course of time got beat up, but that may have been all they wanted was to drive it until, and maybe they sold the
Hmm.
wheels. I don't know.
Well, that's probably the deal. The
You know.
if he really wanted that car, he would have had to pay for one thing an impound fee that probably would have been amounted to more than the car was worth. And
Well, and he never
yeah,
title over,
yeah,
so he would have had to pay. something.
Oh yeah,
there,
they would have hit him.
I mean,
They would have. It's like no good deed goes unpunished. It's like, hey, you got a car here, free car. No, it's not going to be free. You going to
when
pay
you talking
for
about Dave, yeah, Dave would
Yeah,
have
yeah,
paid a pound fee, but as long as the tag wasn't bad, I think Dave could have just picked it up and drove it again.
yeah,
But he didn't have the keys. I don't think it was worth it on his end, or certainly he didn't feel like it was worth it.
yeah.
But
Yeah, those horror
anyway,
stories. That's one of those things that you talk about where you worry about your government is like you worry about what they can do to you if you're in the wrong, and they've got the ability to fine you. That's one way they keep you in fear. It's like, please
oh
don't
god,
hit me with that fine that I have to pay if I want to function in my life. I have
oh,
to pay that
look at the
fee.
COVID.
What's that?
Uh, Look at the COVID fines businesses paid.
Yeah.
And what's ridiculous is, I was watching a thing the other night. I don't know who it was. I think it was a Fox commentator, but they were showing video of all these Democratic Congress people that were just flaunting any sort of mask violation and stuff, and then they would say, "Yeah, this governor went out to eat, and clearly there's video of nobody in his party wearing masks, but at the same time, this person got arrested for not refusing to wear a mask in a restaurant."
Mm-hmm.
Just the double standard on the government thing. I mean, what is the definition of tyranny if it's not, you do what I say, not what I do?
Well, and that just goes to show that they really do believe that voting has come to an end. That they don't believe there ever will be a true
Well,
referendum on what they get up to anymore.
I think that some of these politicians they just feel like they're entitled. And I don't think you look at it a little bit different than I do, but I think a lot of them just feel like they feel like royalty, and they're like, of course I'm going to always have this job. I am, maybe they've had it for a long time, or
Well,
maybe they're just like,
they've
I
got
know
it
I've got
figured
a
out
job.
where their money's coming from. Yeah, they've got their lobbyists lined up, and they feel like they've got their friends where they need them. The friends.
Yep, the right people support me, and
Mm-hmm.
I got enough people. So, but what I take out of it, in some ways, is worse than what you think. Even what you think is bad. What I take out of it is they don't believe the kind of crap they're selling. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
what I always say about the climate stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If some people that crow about climate change and feel that it's the dire emergency that they claim it is, and that we've got, well, why don't they do anything personally? It's like at work. I don't use my cell phone at work because I don't want my employees to do too.
Yeah.
So I got to be more circumspect than they are, as an example. But some of these politicians don't feel that way, and media people and celebrities and stuff. They're perfectly happy burning as much carbon as possible, and they'll say, well, I'll buy offsets or whatever. Well, offsets don't save anything.
No. Huh?
If you really believe it, how do you buy it? You can't. I'm convinced if you believe it, you shouldn't believe in offsets. If you think, the Earth is going to warm up 10 degrees and we're all going to die, how does buying anything help that? It should just be, you know what, everyone's going to tighten their belt and forget offsets. Just do what we're paying for. That should be a separate issue. Everybody needs to tighten their belt. But no, man, most of these people don't believe it.
Natasha
It's just a way.
Natasha International says she went to an anime convention the other day and participated in a small art contest and won. And her prize was a Jessica rabbit print. Subject was a cute goth girl, impatiently waiting. We had an hour to draw. I channeled my inner Jack Kirby. Yeah, and I assume you're saying the the Jack Kirby power, mainly related to how long it took you, huh? 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, man, stuff like that. I mean, hats off to you because I've been on in those kind of situations, and I always do terrible.
It's a pressure environment. Yeah.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I mean,
Well,
and I mean, it's
anything's
not that I
pressure
might
that's
be
a
wrong.
contest.
Exactly. My thing is, yeah, because yeah.
I think
So
I'm going to leave the
cool.
pencil.
Hats off for winning that.
Yeah, Natasha. It's cool.
That's
I'd like to see it. You got to post the place you've got it. I assume you've shared it with the world. Everybody shares. I want to share this little doodle I just did of a wizard conjuring things. It sure doesn't show up very well. It doesn't even make an attempt to refocus on it. Well, Scott, we're at about an hour and 5, in fact. You ready to call
hang
it
on.
quits?
Hang on.
Okay. Well, you had something you wanted to say. I wanted to talk about Charlton Comics today, maybe Procreate, and having bought a iPhone stylus that I learned that there is no such thing as the iPhone stylus I want out there, basically. None of them behave like the Apple Pencil for the iPhone. Yeah, what you got?
Oh yeah. Okay, so so ignore the bag. It's just because I took this to work with me.
What, with your
So,
address and social
back in-
security number on it?
Yeah, that. Ignore that. No, it's
Okay.
my wife's work address.
Okay.
So back in the 70s, Marvel put out a series of novels based on their comic characters. One of them, the Spider-Man one, was Mayhem in Manhattan. There's they did about 10 of them. I know that because I bought all of them when I was a kid. So the one I'm currently reading, one of them, it's this book. It's The Avengers,
Cool.
The Man Who Stole Tomorrow, which I dig it because that's the Avengers team I think is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But also, this book goes for big bucks online because the villain is Kang, who's the villain in the next Avengers movie. I mean, most of these books online go for like between $5 and $10. This one goes for like $75. So I may read it and sell it. But
well, how
anyway,
did you
I'd
come
read it
across it?
since I was
Half
a
price
kid.
books. You are the half price
No,
book
I
maestro.
this-
I tell you, you always get the good stuff.
No. I mean, I bought this when I was a kid. I've had this since 79 or whatever. Yeah, no. It's got a half price bookmark
in it.
But I bought it in 79. It just came out in 79. I bought all of these books when I was a kid because I was.
And how much do you think you can get for it? How much did you say you think you can?
$75.
Wow.
They go on eBay for about $75.
Wow.
Yeah. Now the other ones are all fairly reasonable, But yeah, I mean, if I'm gonna read it,
read it again and sell it. Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna read it and then possibly sell it. We'll see how much I enjoy it. But anyway, I wanted to share that.
Cool.
Because, like I said, that's the Avengers team that I think is cool, with Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, the Beast, Scarlet Witch, Vision, and Quicksilver. They're missing Hawkeye, but it's still a cool team.
Yeah, that's really
That's
pretty cool. Yeah, like I said, I was going to talk about all my Charlton stuff. I got off that Read Free Comics website. I'm going to post that as a link. I'll do an additional bit of editing so everybody knows about that place. That is really a cool place to browse and catch up on some of your old memories.
Well, it's a pirate.
Yeah, it's piracy, I guess you could say. Yeah. Oh, does it have pop-ups? I don't notice. I've got ad blocker.
Oh my god!
I've got ad blocker. I guess plowing through it.
Oh, on my phone it had a lot of stuff. There's others out there that are, but I mean, yeah. Post a link.
Okay, I will.
yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there.
And
For sure.
Natasha says the only place you can see that art is on Mike Miller's Discord server, where they're selling their NFTs, the non-fungible tokens. I get the notices that Doug has a new video or whatever, and the guy always looks so haggard when he's on his locals and his Rumble or wherever he's at. I forget where I'm going to, because obviously he's banned from YouTube for life. And so I go there. That guy's working so hard on those non-fungible tokens, but he may be, it's obviously a lot better than working on comics in terms of like financial reward, if you're somebody that is promotion minded and like Mike Miller and Doug. Well, Scott, okay, we've gone on another extra 5 minutes. I guess we're done. So you ready to say bye, or you want to? I like that panel you worked on. Pretty cool, pretty groovy.
Oh yeah, the space sequence to my comic book 1979.
Yeah, looks. I like all that stuff that's going on there. That's pretty cool. Are you going to ink it, or is that going to be a pencil sample?
I will. It just kind of depends on how much free time I have. I'm trying to just keep myself busy.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm thinking about is I have some oversized vellum. I may ink it on the vellum.
Oh, that'd be good. All right, everybody. Look at my Tumblr later, which has a link below, and you can check what I drew this evening. Okay, saying bye.